Hey, my creative friends. My name is Shannon from shannonstudio.com. And we are here to talk about a creative life and some creative life tips, or just one tip maybe tonight. And it's so we can spend more, because there's a lot of benefits for being creative. And sometimes being creative is kind of one of the last things on the list. So I'm trying to share how come it's so important and to maybe move it up on the list of your things to do and the priorities you have. Hey, boyfriend. So today is Sunday, the Sabbath, and so I tie in creativity with spirituality. And so kind of tie those two together to see how they work. Today I was in 2 meetings because we're still not meeting in church as a congregation. In Sweden, you're not supposed to have more than 50 people in one place. And we haven't figured out how to do that here yet quite. And so I was in a meeting on Zoom, on 2 meetings. One of my friends from church invited me to their Zoom meeting from the US. So I participated in that, and then I participated in the Zoom meeting that my Relief Society sisters had here. Hey, Trisha. Trisha, are you guys going to church yet in your area? So I had 2 women's church meetings today via Zoom, and it made me think of a lot of things, but I was thinking about, well, first off, this is a whole new normal, doing Zoom meetings for people. A lot of people have done it for work, but to do it privately or to do it in different ways, when you first start out, it's kind of sometimes awkward, and there's technical glitches sometimes, and there's just uncertainty and people talking over each other. And so the etiquette is still in the learning process for a lot of people. And the comfort level is not quite there for everyone. So I find it's interesting that we are venturing to be creative in how we meet together, how we share the gospel with each other, how we support each other, and how it just looks different than it did a year ago. Nobody a year ago would have thought that this was how we were going to have church meetings. So in one of our meetings today, we talked, Tricia says, some are a third of the congregation's ward at a time, 30 to 40 minute meetings, no Zoom in our stake. Oh, interesting. Okay, so some people are starting to meet up. I think some people are, in different places in the US. I don't know about here. I know they're still continuing to have sacrament meeting on Zoom in Swedish, and so we don't really participate because we don't know Swedish, and so they don't have an English one. And I guess maybe we could offer to do an English one. That would be a little bit creative, wouldn't it? Hadn't thought about that. Okay, so I thought about, we talked in one of ours about how it's hard to not meet together, and how, because we're isolated all over the world, and it's hard when you're, and I've talked to you before about loneliness and all those kinds of things. So we were talking about how we could overcome those challenges of feeling alone and becoming stressful. And then it made me think of a song that we sing at church often. We've, over the years, sung it many, many times, and it's Have I Done Any Good? And the song itself has several questions as part of the text of the song. And so I'm just going to read some of those things. Have I done any good in the world today? Have I helped anyone in need? Have I made someone feel glad? Have I made someone's burden lighter? Have I been willing to share? Have I helped the sick and the weary? Have I been there when they needed my help? And those are great questions we can ask ourselves But in answering those questions with the restrictions that we have, it's going to take a little creativity on our part. And I shared yesterday about the Scrabble game, where the Scrabble game was when the teacher let the students play in the Scrabble game. Hey, Janae. The teacher let the kids have the Scrabble game and play the Scrabble game, but she tightened up the rules and she loosened up the rules. Like sometimes you could only do 4-letter words, or you had to build on a word that was already there. Or the other way, you can loosen up, you can have 9 letters, or different things like that. So what they found was that the tighter the restrictions, the more creative people got, the more creative students got. Hey, Tamara. So I'm thinking the more tighter restrictions we have on our being able to meet in person is going to help us push through and be more creative in how we can answer those questions of, have I done any good in the world today? Or have I made somebody feel glad? If you say, I can't make somebody feel glad by going to church and talking to them, or by going to their home and seeing them, or by dropping off a little surprise or flowers or something, then I know that those are off the table. What else could I do? And so that's where we have to really push our creativity to say, what can I do? I can send letters. To me, I was thinking today, what talents do I have that I could do something? And I thought about, if I printed off some of my drawings on watercolor paper and sent just a little 3 or 4 color watercolor palette with a little mini brush and stuck it in an envelope and sent it to somebody. That's within my realm of doing things in the constricted way that we are living right now. And so then I can ask those questions. Have I made somebody feel glad? I think that would. Am I willing to share? Yeah, I think so. Have I done any good in the world today? I would hope it would. So all of a sudden, when we look at those questions, instead of saying there's no possibility to do that because we can't do X, Y, and Z, instead we go, despite X, Y, and Z, what can we do? And in that song, it continues to say, boyfriend said, send chocolate. Totally. If somebody sent you chocolate, that would totally work. If somebody sent me chocolate, that would totally work. I think we ought to think about that for a couple people. So wouldn't it be fun to get chocolate in the mail? Thank you for that suggestion. Trisha says, your videos make others glad. Thank you, Trisha. I'm hoping so. And let's see. So in that song, it also says doing good is a pleasure. And where's the quote? James Barrie, 1917 says, those who bring sunshine to the lives of others cannot keep it from themselves. And so that's kind of that idea of doing good is a pleasure. It's, the song says, a joy beyond measure, a blessing of duty and love. So we get something out of giving to somebody else. And that's a weird thing. That even though you think you're serving somebody else, you're doing something for yourself as well. I don't think that's by accident that it's created that way, that our souls are created that way. Let's see. Dieter F. Uchtdorf says, the words of encouragement require only a loving and caring heart, but may have an eternal impact on the lives of those around us. So even just words of encouragement, that doesn't require us to usually go out. And just texting. I just felt like texting this gal. I hadn't heard from her, and I texted her, and it was just a lovely conversation. And we were just words over the internet. It didn't require a whole lot, but it was a nice connection to have. There are many ways to serve. This is in Gospel Principles, in a book that we use to teach, and it says there are many ways to serve. We can help others economically, socially, physically, spiritually. So if you look at service and start to broaden it in that context, there is so much that's available for us to do within our own comfort zones, where we don't even have to it's not like one prescribed path. This is the only way you get to serve. It's like opening up the service floodgates, and so we can pick whatever we want. Alan's gonna send me chocolates. Oh, I'm supposed to send Alan chocolates. So there's everything we can do. Everything is open to do, and that just is an exciting prospect. I see the heart's boyfriend, so that means you're gonna send me chocolates, right? Okay, and then the last part is the scripture, Acts 10:38. And it basically sums up, the boyfriend's doing hearts like crazy. It basically sums up that Jesus went about doing good. That he went about doing good. And that opens up the context, like I was saying, that opens up, it wasn't one prescribed way. It's just, don't get caught up in the fact that we're not going to church physically, or we're not, we don't have a lot of money right now, or, don't get caught up in the don'ts or we don't haves or how it's not going to work. It is so easy to pull up that negative bias and to say, wave it around like a flag saying we can't do it because. Instead, push yourself, push your creativity to go about doing any kind of good. Any kind of good. And follow the Savior's example. He makes it easy for us. His example makes it easy for us. I know a lot of us want to say, oh, but I'm not Christ. I'm not perfect. I'm not, Well, he went about doing good. The example there is pretty wide open. Pretty wide open. And I was thinking this week about how we're not meeting with people. There's a lot of negativity and happening in the U.S., and there's a lot of isolation happening all over the world, and it can really drag us down and make it hard for us. And I was really thinking about, my own faith, and I was thinking my faith could be eroded by not doing something, and that I could slowly let that be chipped away. And I was thinking about how do we keep faith, and my thoughts were, sometimes people might dismiss certain things as coincidence, that I just made that up, that you just want to believe that, so you make yourself believe that. And I can see why that they would say that, because they don't have the same faith. But then when I was thinking about it, I thought, you know what? That's true. We do make up things. Our brains are wired to do certain things, and we do make up some things. What is it called? A bias? Maybe somebody knows what we call it. But what I can't make up are the ways that other people have answered my prayers. So I've prayed to God. I'm not praying to these other people. I've prayed to God, and God has used other people to answer my prayers. Now, I can't make somebody else do that. I can't conjure that up like they that I made up that they did these acts. That has nothing to do with me when they fulfill a prayer, because they've listened to God, they've done some service, they've gone out of their way and served me, and they are my answer. That dismisses the idea that anything's coincidence to me, because and then when it happens over and over and over, yes, it dismisses the idea that it's a coincidence. So the idea, have I done any good in the world today? Have I helped anyone in need? Have I made someone feel glad? Have I made someone's burden lighter? Have I been willing to share? Have I helped the sick and the needy? Have I been there when they needed my help? Any of those things, you may be the answer to someone's prayer. You may be the answer that someone needs. Christ went about doing good. That is an example that all of us can follow. No prerequisites on the idea that we have to be perfect. It's just go about doing good. And like I said, I am grateful in my life for those people who have done good things. I mean, I just over and over and over. And I think of one time, and I think someone on this thing may have done this. We had a broken window. It was this big pane window, 4 feet by 4 feet, I think. It was huge. And one of our hard-headed children, literally hard-headed children, banged his head against the double pane window and it cracked. And then one day we came home, or one day, somebody else paid for our window to be replaced. And you know, when you have 8 kids, it's not like there's a lot of money going around in the house, and it stayed that way for a long time, but somebody wanted to do good. Somebody brightened my day. Somebody was willing to share. Somebody was there when I needed their help. And my life is full of that. And you can't tell me there isn't a loving God who doesn't inspire other people to do that. And it makes me teary-eyed because it just is like flooding back all of the good things that other people have done for me in my life. And I thank God that He has blesses people to move and to do actions. We can do anything we want. Let's be creative. I'm going to be creative about reaching out to other people and just doing good. So that's the tip tonight. Remember, you have a creative heartbeat, so listen for it. And I will be back tomorrow. Bye.